Well, continuing the theme of sort of financial pressures, really, soaring childcare costs are forcing a quarter of parents in Britain to give up their job or to drop out of education, according to a new study. In a survey of several countries, UK parents were the most likely to find it hard to meet childcare costs, with a record 74% saying they found it challenging. Well, joining us now to discuss this is the editorial director of Netmums, Jennifer Howze. Good morning to you, Jennifer.
Good morning.
Interesting the way we describe that as parents, but are we predominantly in all of this, unfortunately, still talking about mothers and women?
Yes, predominantly it is women who look after children and that are impacted by the cost of childcare and therefore have to scale back their jobs or give up their jobs or education. Especially when you consider, because of the wage gap, that if both parents work, the man probably makes more.
Right. So it's often the women that decide to stay home because of those huge childcare costs. Look, we talked about it on the programme last month when the Chancellor announced his spring budget, and There was much excitement from many organisations like yours, with people saying, wow, for the first time the government's recognising that actually childcare needs to begin from 9 months and not 3 years. So there's this extension of the 30 hours of free childcare for those age brackets, obviously being phased in over several years. But how much of a change will that be to this problem that's been identified in the report, do you think?
Well, I think the biggest change is that it's an acknowledgement that childcare, it's infrastructure, really. It's not a nice to have, that it's part of the economy. It unlocks huge amounts of value and earning power for families. All that money goes right back into the economy via taxes or, spending on food, mortgages, rent, et cetera. So the fact that we're actually starting to talk about childcare is not something that parents have to kind of sort out themselves or cobble together with nurseries and childminders and nannies and au pairs and family members is, I think, one of the biggest steps or one of the biggest impacts of that.
So we were just discussing how the IMF said that we in the UK are the worst performing major economy in terms of growth.
Yes.
And would you say it's no surprise then, given that we're also charging the highest childcare? Maybe if we want to improve growth, we should try and make it easier for parents, predominantly women, to get back to work.
Well, yes. I was reading a study, PricewaterhouseCoopers did a study where it showed that there's 177 billion pounds of value that could be unlocked if we had the same amount of women working as in Sweden, where there is there's a much better childcare provision from a very early age. I mean, that's an annual amount. I think this is something that parents have known for a long time.
Do you think, though, it's just about necessarily giving the childcare sort of help and bringing the costs down? Or is it a question of looking at those ratios, the numbers of children that are looked after? I mean, do you have strong views on how many adults should be looking after small children? Because certainly in different countries, they have different models to what we allow legally here. Even I think Scotland's different from England.
Yeah, this is a big point of debate. It's a big point of debate on Netmums. But I think the big thing is that we have to realize looking after small children, it is time intensive, it's labor intensive. These are little people, they need care, they need education. We're socializing them. We're basically laying a foundation for them to be kind of good citizens. And that we can't kind of skimp on that by trying to pay as little as possible and, not worry about who's looking after them or not worry about how they kind of fit into the bigger picture. Because nurseries also, you think about this, we've lost 5,000 childcare providers this year alone. So you have you have fewer number of providers out there.
And more demand.
More demand. Yeah. There is concern. There were a lot of conversations, I think, in the wake of what the Chancellor was saying is, this is great that there's going to be, they're offering more places.
It's just going to increase demand. And how on earth are we supposed to do that? Yeah, no, I mean...
Especially like near me, where am I going to find the childcare provider who's going to give me those hours?
Well, certainly there's a lot of work still to be done on it. Really interesting to get your take on it. Jennifer Howze is the editorial director at Netmums. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.